and welcome to another edition of Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power Production. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions, and I am so excited for our guest tonight, Dr. Irvin PeDro Cohen, a personal friend of mine, a game changer, a community voice, a transformational leader. It's so great to have you here. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me to be a part of your platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you and I have known each other for a long time. And one thing I have always known about you from the first time we met is your passion, your commitment to community transformation and engagement. And, you know, it's like in your DNA. So I have to ask, what inspired you to even get into this work? Because it's not easy work. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the work that you are doing.
You know what? I think I think at the end of the day, everybody is gifted with a unique talent. And while, I'm early in my life, I thought my talent was, playing sports. And then I thought my talent was being in the business of sports. The universe had a way of allowing me to do all of those things at a really high level, but then it showed me what I was really gifted at. And when you realize what you're gifted at, it never feels like work. And so this is that thing that never has felt like work. The work is challenging. It's not easy at all. But I think I live and breathe to do it. And what I live to breathe and do is move humanity forward. And so, I've been doing this work now for well over 20 years. And in the 20 years that I've been doing it in some of the most challenging places throughout our community, it has never felt like work. It's something that I live, breathe, eat, talk about, just wake up to do no matter what the challenge is. So that's kind of how I got here and why I'm so passionate about what it is that I do.
I love it. I love it. And I can absolutely affirm that you live, eat, and breathe it. And, I know also as you have embraced, the value of your gifts and the tremendous value and impact of it, you were looking for that not perfect, but for that best fit leadership opportunity that would be able to, elevate all of your wonderful skills, your passion, your heart for service, and give you that platform to really make change. Tell us about being the executive director of LISC Jacksonville. What does that mean? What does LISC Jacksonville do? And why are you the perfect person? Because I know you are to do that kind of work.
Well, first and foremost, let me say what LISC is. We are a financial and social intermediary in a nutshell. What that means ultimately is that we bring capital to under-resourced communities. And then what that means on a social end is, sometimes I tell people that getting money could be a blessing and a curse. It could be a blessing in that it has capacity to change lives, no matter whether it's on a nonprofit side or a for-profit side. But it also has the capacity to be a nightmare in as much that there comes, a whole bunch of restrictions and criteria associated with getting money. And so what we do is we provide technical assistance to those communities who aspire to be great. We help them, as I like to say, we save them from doing damage to themselves with said resources. And not only do we bring capital to those projects or those communities, but again, we help them develop some guardrails so that they could be around for future generations. So that's what we do as an organization. I got here, I'm the third executive director in the 22-year history of our organization here in Jacksonville. LISC is an organization that's been around about 40 years. And we started in New York City, and we're in 38 other communities throughout our country, inclusive of Atlanta, Charlotte, LA, New York, Chicago, places like that. But we were started here 22 years ago, and the previous executive director, she moved on to the other side of meeting her maker. and
Sure.
they needed someone here to fill her shoes. And what I like to think is that everything that I'd done professionally up until that point made me ready to step in this seat. And
Absolutely.
that's kind of what it was. The opportunity was tailor made for the skill set that I bring to the work. It took me a minute to figure out who was on first relative to our work. What was it going to be? What was going to be our work to do relative to the city, and how was I going to put my imprint on it? And so I've been here now for about 3 years, or close to 3 years. Again, just doing the work of moving humanity forward. Our work fits under a big umbrella called family wealth creation, is what I like to say we do. Under that, I'm part a scholar, and so I like to think there's an educative portion of our work, and that sort of sits in the bracket of our financial opportunity centers that are housed in some of the communities we work in. And then there's 4 pillars of our work that we really focus in on. Once you get through that process, it is our work around appraisal biasness that oftentimes happens when people in our communities buy houses. The second piece of that centers around our heirs property and tax abatement work. And then the other portion of it is our new home construction work that we do through our Project Boots program. And then lastly, it's our home repair program that we do in our community. And then you undergird all of that with the small business economic development work that we do in those very same communities. So it's a really prescriptive process that we do. And I'm big on that because it allows us to, as an organization, to stay in our lane. We're not everything to everybody. And, we don't profess to be. We kind of focus in on what it is that we do unique and what do we do uniquely well in those spaces. And that's kind of the work of LISC, and I'm glad to lead it. It's 7. I have a staff of 6 other people that co-create this work with me, and I'm glad that I have them because it allows me to not have to be a superhero. It allows me to let smart people do what smart people do, and we're pretty good at the work that we're doing in our community.
Well, you absolutely are. I love seeing all the photos of the lives that you're changing. As a first generation college graduate and someone who grew up below the poverty level, in my own story, the work that you're doing, particularly around social economic mobility and sustainability, right? Building that legacy of generational wealth. You talk about property ownership. So many people purchase homes, but then don't have that infrastructure to maintain the home. Talk to me about why home ownership and home, sustainability, having that continuity in your life, why that's such a critical piece in eradicating poverty and creating pathways for upward economic mobility.
In our space, first and foremost, we recognize that the house is probably the biggest purchase that anyone is going to make. And, it has the capacity to, if done right, it has the capacity to be the catalyst for generational wealth. And so we recognize that uniquely as something that we can kind of lean in and help people acquire and help people use that as a tool for family wealth creation. I am a big believer in the idea that people want to be better today than they were yesterday, and they want to be better tomorrow than they are today. They just sometimes don't know how to get there. And so what we try to do is simplify it for them by using something that everybody is aspirational around having, and that's a home and owning said home. So we work with that as the common denominator. And so we have a program that centers around heirs property. How do you create generational wealth and by having ownership in your home? And so we work work with them on that. We work with builders by helping them get the capital they need to build homes in under-resourced communities to sell to people. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that for all the money that developers come to us and get, particularly for housing projects, we have an affordability mandate in any money you get from us as an organization. So, anything that LISC has its name on, you can rest assured that at minimum 20% of those units will be earmarked for affordability. And affordability in our matrix is 80% of the average market income. And so that to me is sort of, I can't ask for a better situation than to be a part of an organization that's unapologetic in its, ascribed values and vision of how do you transform communities? Well, you transform it by leveraging the capital you have and making people do things that otherwise they may not do. And for us, that centers squarely in the footprint of housing affordability and making sure that small businesses in those very same communities have access to capital.
I love that. And, that advocacy work is so important. I would imagine with the rising costs of purchasing a home and just the overall cost of living, how are you sort of shouldering and preparing to still do this great transformational work under these very challenging, dynamic, and volatile economic times? As a leader, a visionary, what innovations are in place, and what advice can you give to people, who are looking for that hope, but just feel, like it can't happen for me, and it's getting further and further away, right out of my reach, based on the prices.
What I tell people is how big is your desire, and how strong is your commitment.
I love that. Yeah. Say it again. How big is your desire?
And how strong is your commitment?
I love it. I love it.
We have a real way for people to get there. It might require you to forego some other things that have become very important to you, but we can help you get there. And again, it's very prescriptive. But the good thing about our prescription is purely voluntary. Nobody is saying you have to take this pill. I'm going to say that if you really want a house or you want to save money, you're going to go into my financial opportunity centers and they're going to say you can take the blue pill. The blue pill will get you to your home ownership. And then as part of that process, we are going to help you understand the value of that home for future generations. So again, that's that educative process that I'm so big upon. That, I'm also a first generation college graduate that not only did my parents not know to teach me, but they didn't even teach me that at the university. And so we're filling in the gap in some places where the information isn't passed down. But we're very intentional about what information we are passing down. And that information has a caveat. It's to make you better and to get you into a place where, your future generations are not making the same mistakes that ultimately you or I made, or they're not having the learning gaps that you or I had when we were coming along.
I love it. I think that is very motivational. And, you make some really great points, because there is an element of sacrifice. There is an element of discipline, like you mentioned, and investment, right? And so a lot of people don't appreciate that short-term investment for the, short-term sacrifice for the long-term goal. What sort of plans do you bring now that you are in is it your second, third year? How much time has passed, PeDro?
It's been almost, I think we're right at 3 years now.
Wow.
Again, you take about a year to figure out who's on first. You respect the work that people have done before you. You're trying to figure out what the person before you, why they made some of the decisions that they made. And I think I've done that. And I think we're coming into our next iteration of our strategic plan. where our work is very succinct now. Again,
Sure.
it's, we're not all things to all people. We are who we are to some people, and I'm
Right.
okay with that. You don't find us doing work in the healthcare space. That's just not our thing. You find our work happening in real meaningful ways in real communities with real people. I think the biggest thing that we are going to be, I'm excited about is the potential of our home ownership program in under-resourced communities. We're going to, as an organization, with a level of intentionality, redefine what gentrification looked like and who the gentry really is.
Sure.
We are going to bring people of means back to urban communities. And we're looking for those people who see themselves in light of those neighborhoods rather than in spite of those communities. And then and only then will you truly get to turn the tide of what, some of the troubles of our neighborhood today.
Right.
We have to do a better job of making neighborhoods that, people like yourself, people like me grew up in, appealing to us
Mhm.
once we have our college degrees, because that gives that next generation of young people an opportunity to see what success looks like. And so I'm very intentional about the work in that space, and what that looks like, um, from my shop's lens. So that's what the next iteration of work looks like for us as an organization. How can we make communities like Durkeeville? How can we make communities like historic East Side or North Riverside, any of those traditional, in particular African American enclaves, become destinations where people with college degrees want to move back in, rather than communities that as soon as you get your degree, you want to move out of?
Yeah.
How do
Right.
we make them where people want to be there? And so I'm very intentional about that work. Project Boots is just the first iteration of programmatic offerings that we are putting in those neighborhoods, but they're programmatic offerings that don't just have a programmatic aspect to it, but it also has real capital attached to it. So that's what we're trying to get done here.
Well, you're not trying, you are getting it done. And that's what I
Well,
love
I
about it.
accept that. I
I
accept
know,
that.
please, you are, and you are to be applauded for that. And you had a very fly jacket on. I love that color. Very, Dr. Cohen, you always bring the fashion, and I'm not mad at you for it. I love it. I love it. One thing before we're almost near the end of our time, but there's a lot of challenges that our shared beloved Jacksonville faces. But I'd like to ask, what inspires you about the potential for Jacksonville? What do you see that is that jewel of Jacksonville, the hope, the optimism for now and for the future, and what role does LISC play in making that happen?
You know what? Jacksonville and I have a very intimate relationship, in as
Yep.
much that it's my home.
Hmm.
It's where I was born and raised. My mother and father and my brother, and my children, we all live here.
Yeah.
And so, I'm aspirational just for the sake of, this is where, I was born and raised. And while it's not everything that we aspire it to be, or we think that it can be, um, I'm optimistic about the future of, what we can be.
Sure.
I'm optimistic about the future of what we can be.
Hmm.
I'm optimistic about the people, and whether or not we get out of our way, time is going to push us out the way if we
That's
don't
right.
get out of our own way. So while I don't think it's one particular thing, other than the fact that this is my hometown, and if I can't make it better, then going somewhere else, I failed. Even, I'm not saying that I won't ever leave Jacksonville, because no one knows the future, but what my commitment to the potential of Jacksonville is making sure that I show up every day. I show up within my organization in meaningful ways that have the capacity to, just literally move humanity forward and transform our community to be what we think Jacksonville can be. So that's my commitment. That's my organization's commitment. And again, the work that I do here is very personal because of the fact that there would not be a Dr. Irvin PeDro Cohen if there were not a Jacksonville, Florida. So I appreciate all that the city has allowed me to be and become. And my commitment is that as long as I'm here, I'm gonna make sure that I give it back everything that it has given to me.
I love it. And I have no doubt that you will continue to do that. You've done so much already in regard to that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes, yes. I've seen it firsthand. And I just, I love the love story that you have with your city, I think you really are living it. And now I'm so pleased that the work that you're doing allows you the opportunity to, put that passion and fuel it, in what you're doing every day, and the ideas that you have, they're so incredible.
I appreciate it. I hope I'm rewriting, I know I'm not alone, but I hope that, in my own individual space, I am rewriting a false narrative about those of us who were born and raised on the north side of Jacksonville, that, went to schools like Northwestern Middle School or that graduated from William Marion Raines High School. I hope I'm rewriting that narrative in my own way about what good comes out of the north side of Jacksonville. And this is just my opportunity to every day prove some, those who say nothing good comes from off the north side, to prove them wrong. So I'm just trying to do my part.
You are absolutely doing it, and you have proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. So thank you for all.
Thank you so much for that.
Yes, I mean it. I mean it very sincerely. And it's such a pleasure to chat with you. As we close up, I would ask, how can others get involved? People that are listening, how can they support the work of LISC Jacksonville, and any, parting words of wisdom for others that want to change their communities, but just don't know how?
Well, I just say do what you can do in your space. You don't need a formal organization. All you need to do is just show up somewhere. There's somebody who is in need, whether your passion is young people, whether your passion is, senior people. I just say make yourself available to help somebody. Matter of fact, if you just need some advice, commit a random act of kindness. Go buy somebody who seems without a home lunch one day, or something to drink. Those are just commit random acts of kindness if you want to just find a way to get involved. If you need some formal way to get involved, there are plenty of organizations out there that could use the help. Just figure out what your passion is, and then go help. Go sign up to help. Just show up and say, hey, I'm here to help. I don't want anything. I just want to help. And if they want to find out more about my organization, because we're not a front-facing, volunteer-based organization where somebody could just show up tomorrow and volunteer their time. But if you want to know what it is that we do, or find a way to support the work of LISC Jacksonville, then just go to our website at www.liscjacksonville.com. LISC.org/Jacksonville, and reach out to us there. Send the chat. You could do it that way, or you could you can follow us on all the social media joints out there, Facebook, and just put in LISC Jacksonville, and I'm sure they will find a way. It's in the chat. You can go right there and look us up. And if worst case scenario, just reach out to the office. I pride myself on not being that important that I don't answer the phone or return people's phone calls who just want to chat it up with me about the work that we're doing. I'm always available. I never ascribe to be that leader who people can't just reach out to. So that's kind of what I would say at the end of the day, is how you make that thing work as it relates to finding a way to get involved.
Well, thank you so much. We are
That's
at
my
the end
pleasure.
of the half hour. I want to just tell you how much I admire and am inspired by you and the work that you do and your heart, Dr. Irvin PeDro Cohen, Executive Director of LISC Jacksonville. An incredible human being and professional, but just person. I really appreciate all that you do. For everyone out there listening, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power Joint, as you like to say, an homage to you, production. I am so excited for you all to learn about LISC Jacksonville and, of course, to get connected with the one, the only, Dr. Irvin PeDro Cohen. Join us next time. We'll have more guests, but until then, aspire to inspire, find those people in your communities, make that difference, and we'll see you soon. I'm Dr. Jennifer Blalock, your host, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions.